Good morning, everyone. I know that people are still joining us. My name is Kristen. Welcome to the Amazon QuickSight Learning Series. We are so thrilled to have you joining us today. In this weekly webinar, QuickSight customers learn about product functionalities, new feature launches, best practices and tips, and how to improve the user experience and gain practical knowledge from QuickSight solution architects. Today's session will be focusing on embedding QuickSight into Salesforce. And again, my name is Kristen. I am the QuickSight Community Manager, and I have a couple of wonderful colleagues joining me today to present for you. We have Dr. Alexander Peter, who is a Senior Solutions Architect, and we also have Vetri, who is a Senior Solutions Architect, joining us today. And I am excited to hear what they will have to share. Before we get started, I want to introduce the QuickSight community to you. Next slide, please. And if you haven't seen it, this is a brief overview of what it looks like. You can see, if you go on to the next slide, please, that the QuickSight community is your one-stop shop for learning all about QuickSight. And you can see at the top, there's a resource toolbar. You can find information on Demo Central, the developer portal. If you're looking for documentation, that's a great place to find that. At the bottom left, you'll see there's searchable Q&A. So if you have a question, the first place to go is to check out that Q&A, search for your answer to your question. It's also a great place to share your knowledge if you have an answer to a question or to reply to someone's question and help out a peer. You can also see there's the Learning Center, which has how-to videos. In fact, the video from today will be posted in that Learning Center. That's also where you can find how-to articles and a list of resources to help you get started. Or if you want to learn about embedding, you may want to just check out that Learning Center and explore that area. We also have a What's New and blog section, and that's a great place to get the latest product updates and announcements. And of course, you don't want to forget the events section, which includes sign-up information for weekly and monthly webinars and also in-person events. And you'll see at the top, we're always featuring our latest and greatest events like the event today. Okay, next slide. So the community is a great way that you can learn and also help one another. And I just want to highlight a few weekly and monthly events that we have going on. As you know, this learning series is every week. It's Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and Thursday 10 a.m. CET. And then also, did you know that we have monthly learning events? So the first Friday of the month, we have a partners webcast that has new features. The second and third Wednesday of the month, now this is new, that we have an immersion day in the Americas. And the third Wednesday of the month, we have an immersion day in Europe that's available online. And then the fourth Thursday of the month, we have live Q&A. So almost every week, we have almost 2 events every week that are live, that are ongoing. And you can always find those, again, on the community in the events section, and I'll put the link to the community. I'll share that in the chat in a minute. Also, the community is a great place to become an expert. You can become an expert in the community by answering questions and getting recognized. We just gave out a bunch of swag yesterday, and this week we're giving out swag to our top experts for this month. So sign up for the community. You can sign up by scanning that QR code there. And again, I will put a link in the chat, and you can see the URL below. Okay, next slide. All right, and now I'm going to toss this over to Dr. Peter, who's going to begin the discussion today, and take it over, Dr. Peter.
Alex,
Thank you very much. Yep. Thank you, Kristen.
All right, so today I will be your host walking through the first part of this presentation, and then we'll have Vetri jump in and give you a live demonstration. So before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at the community. Let's go ahead and start looking at how to register and start posting your questions for this session. So whenever you have a question, you can come into the community portal and start posting it with this tag. So let me go ahead and quickly walk you through that process. So in the community tag, let's say we are here, go into the community.amazonquicksite.com. And once you're there, at the very top, you can search for the hashtag QLS embed Salesforce. And if you press enter on that, it's Q. There you go. QLS embed Salesforce. If you click that, you would see the questions being asked, and our moderators, and we have a solutions architect specialist on the moderation. So as you have any questions that come up as we're doing the demo, please ask your questions there, and we'll help you answer. Also, as Kristen mentioned, looking at this community portal, think of it as your resource to connect directly with AWS solutions architects, product team, product managers, product owners. Unlike any other community, this is highly managed, and we look at it constantly and start responding to questions. So we do take the feedback from here, and over 90% of the features that are in QuickSight comes from our customers like you. So as you start putting in features and ideas into the community portal, we do take that seriously and follow up with you. Okay, so saying that, if you want to post a question, how would you do that from this screen? How would you do that? So you would go into the QuickSight community main page, and there's a small button here called New Topic. So you would click that New Topic. And here, please go ahead and choose the category, which is question and answer, and the tag. Please go ahead and put this tag in so that we can see the questions you're asking specific to this learning session. So you would put in the hashtag embed, or you could just search for embed, and it should automatically pop for you, which is QLS embed Salesforce. So go ahead and use that as your tag, please. And then go ahead and ask your question, and then we'll respond to that. Okay, step one is to register if you have not already done so, and then go ahead and you can post your questions there. And all the links and feedback and also the reference materials we will post here. So you can search for that particular hashtag and get details about today's presentation, including the recorded videos. Okay, so let's now back to the presentation. It's recorded, so you can review it. And we'll also post these links for you in that section of the community forum. So our agenda for today, we're going to look at QuickSight dashboard in Salesforce architecture. What does it really mean? How to take a QuickSight dashboard that you have built and load it inside of Salesforce. Then we're going to look at the data and analytics pipeline, like how is the data coming from Salesforce into QuickSight, and how are we doing that analysis, and then how do we take it back and embed it into Salesforce, and the reasoning, why are we doing that? Why are we bringing data from Salesforce into QuickSight, visualizing it, creating dashboards, and then taking that and putting it back into, embedding it back into Salesforce. So that's kind of the architecture and why are we doing this. So I'm going to talk about that. And then we're going to look at concepts of embedding and just-in-time provisioning. That is a very important cost-saving mechanism we have. So wanted to talk to you and show you how, and Vetri is going to actually walk you through a full just-in-time provisioning workflow. Okay, so let's get started. First step, let's go ahead and look at what are we doing here. This is a Salesforce interface. Now here, looking at a particular record, the top section is all Salesforce SaaS application information. And at the bottom portion is the QuickSight dashboard embedded into Salesforce. Now, why you might want this type of information? So let's say you wanted to look at external data that's outside of Salesforce, such as your web social media, web analytics data, some type of forecasting data, or you have created a machine learning model that has some different types of churn rates and different correlations from third-party data. So you're bringing all that data in a consolidated view so that when your Salesforce user logs in, they get a much more intelligent view of a particular customer and maybe other customers in the industry that are using a similar service. So this empowers your sales reps to have superpowers, right? They can go in and imagine having some report, competitive analysis report that you can bring right in and connect with your existing Salesforce opportunities. So that's kind of the benefit, is augmenting the data and enriching it and bringing it back in, while also having the benefit of row level security and the interaction where your SaaS application and your analytics application is kind of blended in, so you don't have to log into another application, or the intelligence is right there with your transactional data and interaction with your client records. I mean, it's a huge benefit of having this type of an embedded integration. It does not have to be just Salesforce. It could be ServiceNow, Jira, any other SaaS application, or your own application. You can embed intelligence. Okay, as you know, scaling, pay-as-you-go session pricing, seamless embedding, secure and row-level security. These are the items that we're going to cover. The self-service provisioning, like the just-in-time provisioning, is a huge cost savings. And when Vetri is going to demonstrate that, you will see how that's accomplished. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at the data and pipeline of how this whole system is going to be working. You have the Salesforce Cloud. From the Salesforce Cloud, there are two ways to connect to QuickSight. QuickSight has a native connector out of the box where you can directly connect QuickSight to the Salesforce and pull in the tables like opportunities, company, accounts. You can pull those in directly, and you can connect those in QuickSight and build your reporting. But when you do that, all you're doing is taking what's in Salesforce and putting it into QuickSight. But what if you wanted other pieces of data, like you wanted to take the customer reviews or support tickets or other data from other systems, and you wanted to integrate it and bring a holistic view? And that's where you probably need a data pipeline. And the way the data pipeline's kind of built is through this high-level concept of ETL, right? Extraction, transformation, and loading. That's a traditional way of bringing in your data. In our case, we have the app flow service, which is a built-in SaaS connector for different providers like ServiceNow, Salesforce, and many other SaaS providers. So you could use the Amazon app flow to connect to the Salesforce. And from Salesforce, you can take the data and you can write that back into an S3 storage, or you can put it in another database like Redshift or any other RDS service. So once you get that data through AppFlow into your storage, from there, you can do many things. You can do ETL, like glue processing. You can take the data and do some semantic analysis. Like, for instance, you may be able to extract out some keywords, or you may be able to do sentiment analysis to see which words are positive versus which words are negative. So you could do all kinds of ETL work on that data. And then you can load it into a service. In this example, we're using the S3 and we're using Athena, because S3 is your very cost-effective storage. So once you have all these log files or all this data that you've pulled in, now you can use the Glue, which is our ETL tool, to go in there and take that data and create a tabular structure, like a table. And from there, you create the reports using Amazon QuickSight. So that's kind of one pathway that you can take. QuickSight can directly connect to S3. QuickSight can directly connect to Salesforce. But if you wanted a system where you have governance and security and audit and performance and tracking, uh, a more structured architecture like this would be helpful. So this is just kind of giving you a reference of the different components that you could use, or you could just directly connect QuickSight to your Salesforce cloud. And then what we're doing is we're taking it further once we built the reports and all the different analysis that's required in QuickSight. We're taking that and embedding it into the QuickSight, into the Salesforce screen. And that's what we're going to look at today. But I just wanted to show you kind of what's happening in the data transfer, storage, processing, retrieval phases. And then today we're focusing on reporting and embedding. Okay, saying that, just a quick kind of, and Vetri is going to go into deep into the details, but to just kind of give you a high level of what is this just-in-time provisioning workflow, and also the embedding. As you know, the QuickSight has three roles: a reader, an author, and an admin. Admin is for all the administrative work. The author is the one who creates the dashboards, and the reader is the one who consumes the dashboard. The just-in-time provisioning can be done for you both at the author level and the reader level. So let's assume that you have an author who wants to look at QuickSight, but look at Salesforce, look at a particular record, but wants to create their own report. They can do that as well. So you can make the Salesforce canvas, the Salesforce user interface, a place where your authors can go ahead and even create their own reports and save them, not just consume them. Versus the reader can just look at the reports based on the context. So if you're logged into a specific account, you could filter the context to only that account or only that region and provide analysis. So you can pass values from the Salesforce screen to your QuickSight screen while you're embedding. And that's something that Vetri is going to talk about too. So from a technical perspective, how does that work? So the first step is to build a mechanism for Salesforce to connect to QuickSight. And this is where we create this API user from Salesforce that can directly interact with the QuickSight APIs. So once we've created that one API user account that Salesforce uses to manage this interaction, which is to provision and register user. First, it checks to see if the user already is registered. If not, it goes ahead and registers the user in QuickSight and then generates the URL that's required. So it does multiple steps. First thing, it checks for registration. Second step, it checks to see if the user is registered or not and registers them. While it's looking for registering them, it'll also look to see if they have a role of an author. If they have a role of an author, then it would go ahead and give them a different set of permissions. And then finally, it generates a unique embed URL that's embedded into that user session. That's the third step. So why are we going through this three-step process? The reason is because we want to have just-in-time provisioning. Because let's say you have 100 users, but you only have 3 users going to a specific page inside Salesforce, and you don't want everyone logging into Salesforce to be registered. That gives you that very contextual registration for your user. Saves you so much money, right? It's only 30 cents per session for a QuickSight reader, and after up to $5, and after that it's unlimited. So you have so much benefit using this type of just-in-time provisioning, so you can keep that cost low. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to go ahead and have Vetri just show you this in action. So essentially, he's going to log into Salesforce, and he's going to go into a specific section in Salesforce, and he's going to show you how QuickSight is embedded. Then he's going to show you how it's embedded for a reader versus how it's embedded for how the author can use it. and also kind of talk and walk you through how this just-in provisioning and all this dynamism is created inside of Salesforce. Saying that, Vetri, all yours.
Thank you, Alex. So let me share my screen.
Yeah. Let me stop my sharing. Okay, Vetri, all yours. Thank you.
Is everyone able to see my screen? You should see a Salesforce page.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, thank you. So as Alex mentioned, right? So we'll walk you through a demo of what it looks like for different personas. So we will first go through two types of persona that can use the three types of embedding. Then we will dive deeper into the components that needs to be created both in AWS as well as on Salesforce to enable this embedding of QuickSight into Salesforce Lightning component. We specifically chose Lightning component because that is where we saw most of our customers are asking for. So we'll cover all those details all those details after the demo. So as I mentioned, right, to demonstrate the three types of embedding within Salesforce, we'll take two personas. The first one is a regular Salesforce user who logs in and look at all the details and uh, commits transactions within Salesforce or create records within Salesforce. And so let us see how we can enrich the user experience by giving some context-based insights for this particular user. So I'm going to log in as okay. As you can see, I have logged in as one of the readers or the regular Salesforce users, and then here, say I just want to have a look at all the contacts that I have and then get some insights on that so that I can proceed. I can decide whether I have to proceed with communicating with that contact either now or later or never want to reach out to those particular contact. So here I'm going to click on one of the contacts that I have. And it looks like a regular Salesforce contacts page. Everything is good, but what you see here different is there is a tab that shows insights from QuickSight. So obviously this can be of different name as you would like. The point here is that whenever I click on the insights from QuickSight, what I'm going to see here is a contextual insights. So for this particular given account that the user belongs to, I'm giving the account pipeline details. And as you can see, as opposed to a complete dashboard, what we have done here is that we need just one single metric to be presented because we do not want to overwhelm the user with unnecessary insights in this particular page or in this context. So, and you can also see that we are passing the account now ID to QuickSight from the page that I have logged into. So I have taken the account ID. So it may not be the account name, but it is with the account ID that we have used to filter the data to show only the pipeline details for the given account in which the contact belongs to. Say, for example, if I close this contact, if you can see here, it's the 56 million is the overall pipeline. So if I close this and I open another contact and go to the insights from QuickSights page, you can see here a different account ID for United Oil and Gas Corporation is passed. And you can see based on the context, I'm seeing a different number here for this particular visual. So here we have used a visual embedding and we have also passed some details from QuickSight from Salesforce, which is the account ID, into QuickSight while embedding. So this gives you more flexibility to show only the insights that are relevant in that particular context. But I, as a user, yeah, this is a lot more powerful that I can have context-based insights. But at times, I would also like to, see the overall performance of my entire portfolio, and it could be just not just with the opportunities, but also about the revenue that my customer has been making even after the sales cycle is done, right? So if I want to have that complete view or the overall view of my portfolio, then I would also require a complete full-fledged dashboard to be embedded within Salesforce so that I do not have to move to different systems. So I'm going to click here. I'm closing this context page, and I'm going to choose another tab within the Sales Console. I see a new tab called 360 Analytics. So I'm going to click on that. That will give me a 360 view of both my revenue and the opportunity. So if you look at here, this is again a full-fledged QuickSight dashboard embedded. And as you can notice here, instead of being as part of the page, we have created an entire tab, Salesforce tab, within which we are able to embed the QuickSight dashboard. And you can also see here, I see the opportunity data, which probably comes from Salesforce. And also I have revenue data. And for this particular dashboard, the revenue data comes from different systems, from different systems within my organizations. But I, as a Salesforce user, I do not have to move out of Salesforce and log into a different system to get these insights. Everything is compiled, as Alex mentioned. It is all compiled as part of our the data, the ETL process. You are creating a multi-domain insights and then pushing it back to Salesforce for the end users like me. So here I can see you could also embed any other details or insights that is more relevant for my user profile that I could use in my day-to-day activities within Salesforce. So this way, you can also embed the entire dashboard or a specific visual for a reader. So as you can see here, right, I'm a consumer of these insights. So in QuickSight terms, I'm basically a reader who is consuming the insights that are already created for me. But imagine a scenario where you have within your sales department or within your team an analyst who or a power user who is well versed, tech savvy, who can also create the own their own insights, and also maybe a sales analyst who can build insights for your entire team, right? So for such cases where again you do not have to leave QuickSight as a power user, but what you can do is that you can build a separate app, as we will show, for all those power users and give access to them, so that whenever the power user logs in, they have an option to go and log into an insights builder and then start building their own dashboards, and if required then share it with other end users as well. So to show that, I'm going to log out as this particular user who is a consumer of insights, and I'm going to log back in as a power user or an analyst. So here, when I logged in as a different user, a QuickSight author, and you can assume that I'm an analyst within your sales department. So here, I may not have access to all the other tabs within Salesforce or all the other apps, because my role here is just to build insights for the sales team. And I can do that as well. And if you think you are a power user, then you could have access to the same sales insights builder. And what we have embedded here is not just a single dashboard or a single visual, but the entire QuickSight console experience. So, and what we have done is that instead of embedding that uh, console experience within a single page or a tab in an app, we have created a completely new app and put this particular builder app where we have embedded this session. So here you can do all the activities as an author would do. So you can get in here into the analysis, and if you want to share it with any other users, you could sure do it. Or if you want to publish a new dashboard, you could do that as well. So you could do all things that an author could do within a QuickSight console, but right within the Salesforce ecosystem or the canvas. So these are the two personas, and we saw three types of embedding, but typically any embedding scenario that you have with QuickSight, you should be able to enable that. And we also demonstrated how the QuickSight assets or the visuals or dashboard can be embedded either as part of a single page or as a separate tab or altogether as a separate Lightning app itself. So with that, we conclude the demo. And now what we will do is we will dive into the details of what are all the Salesforce components and also what needs to be done on the AWS side for you to enable this seamless embedding. Right? So for that, let me close this and log in as a power user or the administrator to show all the components that are required. Right? So for the first thing, there are four types of components that you, three types of components that you need to create within Salesforce. The first one is the named credential, right? And I will show all of it. So the first one is the named credential. So I'm on the setup page. So if you are on a different page, or if you log in directly to a Sales Console or anything, then all you have to do is that if you are a developer, then you should see a setup link. Just click on that. I'm going here, and here search for named credentials. So this named credentials is the place where you define some of the authentication and authorization details that helps Salesforce to communicate with any other AWS services using those credentials. So if you click on this particular QuickSight Embed named credential, you could see some of the details that you have to give. So QuickSight APIs, all the QuickSight APIs are REST APIs, and it accepts the signature for verification. And this is the URL, the base URL for any QuickSight APIs to uh, uh, be called, right? And you are using the named principal here for this particular demo. And here you can see the region where your dashboards are resting and what is the service that you want to access, right? You mention all of these, and then you would also mention some of the access key and secret key. So where does this access key and secret key comes from? So this is where, as Alex mentioned, you got to create a user to fetch the the access key and secret key. So I'm going to switch over to the AWS console just to demonstrate what it is. So here what we have done is that we have created a named user or a user, and we have created the access key and secret key to be able to use these credentials to make a call to the QuickSight via API. But one thing that you got to make sure that you are doing here, as with any other AWS services, you are going to give only the least privileged access. So we always attach a policy to determine what is the boundary of actions that this particular role or the user can do. So if we expand this, we are enabling only the access that is required for this particular uh, entity or the user to be able to generate the anonymous user URL or generate the embed URL for registered user. So in a typical case, you would just, if it is a user-based embedding, you would just use this particular one. And you can also see the register user that we have given access to. And this is where, as Alex mentioned, it is the it will enable you a just-in-time provisioning. So if in case the user doesn't exist in QuickSight already, then you can just register the user on the fly and then enable them the access for the given dashboard. So always follow the least privileged access principle to ensure that you are giving access as only as it is required for embedding purposes. So once you are done and you are able to get the access key and secret key, you would use it here and create a named credential. So once this named credential is established, then the next step is to make sure you create a class or a component that helps you make those generate embed URL calls to QuickSight using this named credentials. So for that, yeah, we will construct an Apex class. I'm going to click on the Apex class here. And as you can see that these are the Apex class that I have. And for our embedding purposes, we have been using this Apex class. And to better explain it, let me open it in a developer console. So I'm going to open a developer console and on these to begin with. Yeah, this is the Apex class that we are using. So as you can see here, there are a lot of details that we have used. There could be a better way to manage all these details within Salesforce so that it is not hard-coded within the class itself, but stored somewhere securely. So for the demonstration purpose, we have just used it directly. So always follow the best practices to ensure the credentials and the details are secure. So here you can see the account number that it is going to make the call to, and you can also see the role name that you would use either for the session embedding, which is you want to log in as an author, then what is the role that you have to use? Because for all the embedding purposes, QuickSight uses federated roles that you will create in IAM. So all these roles are created in IAM, and then we are going to use that to embed the dashboards. And here is where it is critical that you are using the correct named credential for all your API calls and the QuickSight region and everything. So these are some of the basics that you will set up. And here, when you come back, as I mentioned, we are trying to call it from a Lightning component, right? So this, whatever the Apex class that you have, your Lightning component should be able to call these functions. So we are going to enable it. You are going to add this tag of Aura enabled for all these functions. And here you have the generate author embed URL, generate dashboard embed URL, and generate visual embed URL. And if you remember from our demo, we had 3 types of embedding that got showcased. So one is this one takes care of the visual embedding within the contact page. And this is the 360 analytics that you saw. And generate author embed URL is basically the entire QuickSight console being embedded within a given app in Salesforce. So all these are the Apex functions that can be called from your Lightning component. So now a little dive, deep dive into this particular function. So all these functions, follow the same procedure. So we will just go with one of the functions to just know how it is called. So the first one, we need some context from Salesforce, right? So we want to make sure that we are using the right user details so that we fetch the dashboard, and if row level securities are applied, are enabled for the dashboard, then we must ensure that this user who is logged into Salesforce sees the data that is relevant and authorized for him to see, right? Or for him or her to see. So here, what we are going to do is that we are going to get those username and details, the email details from Salesforce. You see here the active user email. And then this is the just-in-time registration that we are doing. So we are going to register the user if the user doesn't exist. So we are just going to use the user email details and also all the other details that we mentioned on the top. And since it's the visual embed URL, we are going to use the reader role so that it is only used for the consumption, right? And so once we construct this details, then we use the named credentials and then call a given API call to register the user if the user doesn't exist, right? So once the user is registered, then we have the next call that needs to be done, which is basically the crux of this entire embedding, right? So you have to fetch a one-time use embed URL from QuickSight. So for that, again, you will make sure that you construct a user ARN with the user details that you fetched for this particular user and also the roles that you want to use. And here we are constructing again a request body. And you can see here we are using the dashboard, sheet, and visual IDs. Right? These are all the parameters as you can see, for this particular function, right? We will see how these, how and where from these parameters are passed as when we jump into the lightning component piece. But for now, you can assume that these are all the parameters that this function receives, and then it passes it on in the request body that you will call to generate the embed URL. So this is the place where you are generating the embed URL for the registered user. So this is a REST API call that you are making, and this is the content of the post request body, right? So you are sending the user details and also the dashboard detail that you want to be, or the visual detail that you want to be embedded. So once that is done, you get the embed URL from QuickSight and you process it, and this is the place where you are sending it back to the lightning component that called this function. So you are returning this embed URL, right? So this is what you get from the call to QuickSight, and this is what you return back to the lightning component. So the other functions will also follow the same pattern. So both for author embedding and dashboard embedding, it is the same pattern that is being followed. So now we will jump into the lightning component that uses this particular Apex class, and then use the embed URL that got generated and renders the dashboard or visual, right? So now I'm going to search here for the lightning component. So here, as you can see, there are multiple lightning components, but what we use in the demo are the bottom 3 ones. So I will go ahead and click on this particular lightning component because this also shows you how you can, one of the ways of passing the user context from Salesforce into QuickSight at the time of embedding. So I'm going to click on this visual component. And again, for better legibility, I'm going to open this in developer console of Salesforce. And now we didn't use all the components here for this lightning component, and for the simplicity purpose and for in the demo, we have just used the component and the controller, right? So in the component, this is where all your HTML elements comes in, right? And also you define what is the Apex class that you are going to use, right? So account insights is the Apex class that this will call, right? And embed URL is an attribute that you will get from your controller and assign it, right? And this is what you will use somewhere down the line to embed the dashboard. So this is the embed URL that basically gets passed from the Apex class into the lightning component. So you can see here, I have defined this attribute, and at the bottom, I have embedded it in an iframe, right? So I have used that embed URL that I fetched from the Apex class and put it into the iframe. But you also have to know how we are passing the context of the account ID so that the visual that gets embedded is filtered for that particular account ID in which the contact belonged, right? So for that, let us go back to the controller. And you can see here now the connection between the Apex class, right? So the C dot, right? C dot is nothing but you have mentioned in the component that it is going to use the account insights Apex class. And so that this C dot is going to call the account insights Apex class and specifically the function generate visual embed URL. And you can see it here, generate visual embed URL. And you can also see how we are passing the dashboard ID, sheet ID, and the visual ID as parameters here, which is being referred when the embed URL is being generated. So this is how you set the parameter and then call this particular function in the Apex class. And once you get the embed URL, and one of the ways, and I again say like this is one of the ways for you to pass parameters to the QuickSight using the URL itself. So once I fetch the embed URL, which doesn't have any context of the parameters or any context at all, now on the UI layer at the component level, I'm passing a parameter to QuickSight. And what I'm passing is basically I'm passing the components, one of the details from the record, which is the account ID. So I'm passing this account ID from Salesforce into QuickSight while I embed the URL. So this way, you are able to get that context-based insights within Salesforce. Okay. So this is the overall example of the three components that you would use within Salesforce to embed a QuickSight visual or dashboard or any other embeddable asset from QuickSight into Salesforce. Okay. So now that we created this component, we'll also quickly see how you can add this lightning component to any of the places, right? So we saw how we added this to a contact page, the visual, QuickSight visual. So I'm going to go to the object manager and search for contact, which is the page that we modified. So here I'm going to go to the lightning record page of this contact object. Yeah. And I'm going to click on this and edit it. So it opens the Lightning App Builder, and you can always see how I have how I actually constructed the one that I showed in the demo. Here is the Insights from QuickSight tab, and you can see here it is completely customizable, as I mentioned. So I just added it so that it is explicit in the demo, but you can always give any name that you want for this particular tab, and that is more relevant and that makes sense for the end users to understand what is there, right? So you can do that, and you can also, it's not necessarily here, right? Because it is now become a Lightning component. So there is so anywhere that you can put in a Lightning component, you can embed this. Say, for example, even within the tab, say I'm going to embed the QuickSight visual again, or in this case, probably a dashboard, right? So I want to just put it here at the bottom. I can put that here as well. So you see that the entire dashboard is embedded here, and because it is also responsive, by default, you can see that it adjusts itself according to the bed. So it doesn't matter where, so any place where you can put a Lightning component, you can embed the QuickSight visuals or dashboards within Salesforce. And similarly, like this is within the page, and I can also show you how we did the same for the tab, right? We built as 360 analytics. So we can show, we can see how it is also built, right? So you go here and search for tabs. Yep. So this is where I created maybe the two tabs, and the 360 analytics is one of the tabs, right? That is used. So you can, if you want, you can build another tab. Say, for example, I'm going to create a demo tab. Lightning component that I'm going to use. Say if in this case, I'm going to use visual, right? It doesn't matter because everything is now a Lightning component. I'm going to call this as a demo visual embed. Right? It creates a name, and I have to choose a tab title, and probably I will go for what, anything. Yeah, maybe compass again. So, and give next. Okay, so I'm going to give access to everyone. So it's a default on for all the user profiles. And I'm going to save it. Now that I created the tab, now I have to include this tab in some of the apps, right? So only then it will be visible. So I created a demo visual embed tab. So I'm going to now go to the apps, app manager, and say, let's choose the sales console because I think that is what I'm logged in here, sales console. And I don't see any tab called demo visual. So let me embed it here. Okay, App Manager, and I'm going to choose the Sales Console and edit it. Right, and I'm going to go to the navigation icons and search for Demo Visual Embed as one of the tabs, and I'm going to add that tab to the list of tabs available for this particular app and save it. Now that it is saved, let me go here and refresh this page. Yeah. Now these are the list of the tabs, and I should see, yeah, Demo Visual Embed as one of the tabs. Click on that. Now, though it is the complete tab, you would still see, because we are not passing the context here, I'm not able to see data. So this is another example, right? So if you don't pass the context or the right context is present, then you are not going to um, show the data for that particular user. So um, yeah, so basically, but you are able to embed, you can see here, right? The account ID passed is null. So we are not showing any data here. So yeah, this is basically the example of how you can embed the entire the QuickSight app or dashboard or visual into a tab, right? So with that, we conclude the today's session on the demo and the deep dive into the components of how to create a Lightning component and use it anywhere within Salesforce. And to make sure that you are able to replicate this, we also have other resources that you could use. So there is AWS documentation on the Embed analytics, and also we have a blog that specifically speaks about this particular uh, use case that we ran through in this session. So this is the let me share that details here. So this is the blog. I can put it in the chat once I stop sharing. So you can use this particular demo. It clearly walks through all these details, whatever that we went through and it also provides you some sample codes that we have used in the demo. So you should be able to clearly replicate whatever that you saw in this particular session using this blog. So now back to these slides. So with that, we conclude the deep dive of various components within Salesforce to embed QuickSight. And now I pass it on to Christine to talk more about the upcoming events as part of this series and beyond. Christine, over to you.
Thank you, Vetri, and thank you for your great demo and presentation, Dr. Peter, as well. So as we mentioned, we have this learning series every week. And so we wanted to tell you a little bit about what's upcoming. So on April 19th, next Wednesday, we have Spice Data Best Practices. That will also be on April 27th. And I'm just going to put that in the chat as well so that you have access to that as well there. And wanted to also mention that in Europe next week, we'll also be doing configuring QuickSight resource permissions, and that is in the chat as well. We have a special event going on next week. This is a first time event for us, and we'd love to have you join us. So directly following the Spice Data Best Practices webinar, if you sign up for that webinar and attend, it'll be about a half an hour webinar, and then we're going to go into a online user group. So you're welcome to join us for that. I know some of you may have to leave after the webinar, but if you can join us for the user group, it will be interactive. It'll be a chance for you to meet your peers. We are going to have some of our developers and QuickSight experts joining us, and it'll be an opportunity for everyone in attendance, including the developers and experts and everyone who does attend, to share tips and tricks. We're going to go around the room and share a little bit of, what we've learned that we wish we would have known earlier in our QuickSight journey. So I hope that you'll be able to join us for that. And the registration for that is, as I mentioned, the same as the registration for the webinar. I'll put that in the chat right now. Okay, next slide. All right, and then I did also want to highlight again, we have these new online immersion days that are coming up in both the Americas and in Europe. So the one in the Americas that is next Wednesday will be focusing on Q, which is Amazon QuickSight's natural language query. And the one on April 26th in the Europe time zone will be a deep dive immersion on building your own dashboard. And that will start at the basic level and will go all the way to the advanced level over the course of a couple of hours. So we hope that you'll be able to check those out as well. Next slide. And now we just want to say a big thank you to everyone for joining us today, particularly to our speakers, Dr. Peter and also Vetri for presenting and sharing your expertise. And we would love to hear your feedback about today. Would love to, continue to learn how we can improve our learning series. So do fill out the feedback form and let us know. And we'd love to stay connected. So please, if you haven't joined the community, sign up for the community and you can connect with me and the essays that you heard from today, or also you'll see them active in the community. It's a place where you can continue to ask your questions if you have questions that you think of after the event today. So let's stay connected, and I hope that everyone will have a great week.